Video is going to be covering X and Y intercepts. So we're going to look at finding them algebraically, and we'll also kind of look at how to look at them when it's just given a graph. But those are a little bit easier than finding them algebraically. So first, let's start off with just what X and Y intercept is. All the X intercept is if you look at this line here, where that line intersects the x-axis, that's the x-intercept. So whatever that coordinate is. So if we look at this one, the x-intercept would be, that's negative 1, 2, 3. So it would be negative 3, 0. Same's true for the y-intercept. Wherever that line crosses the y-axis, that's our y-intercept. So that crosses it right there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it would be 0, 4. So those would be the X and Y intercept. That's how you find it looking at the graph. Pretty simple stuff. A x-intercept is also sometimes called a root. It can be called a zero, or it can be called a solution. All right, now we're going to talk about finding those X and Y intercepts when you're just given an equation and you have to find it algebraically. So if you look at this, we have y equals negative 2, x plus 5. So here's what you want to do. You want to set up two different cases. So you want to set up one for the x-intercept, one for the y-intercept. Now on the x-intercept, you're going to plug in 0 where you see a y. So in order to find x, we have to make sure that we plug in 0 for y, and that would look like this. 0 equals negative 2x plus 5. So all I did was plug in 0 right here. The opposite's true for finding the y-intercept. You want to plug in 0 for x. So you'll have y equals negative 2 times 0 plus 5. And then you just solve it out. So for the left side, we're going to take 5 away from both sides. We're going to have negative 5 equals negative 2x. Then we're going to divide each side by negative 2, which will give us x equals 5 over 2. And then for the y-intercept, we have y equals negative 2 times 0, which that just cancels out. So y equals 5. And then the way you write this is you make it an ordered pair. So if x equals 5, that means the y-intercept or the x-intercept is 5 over 2 and 0. And the y-intercept would be 0, 5. So that would be for this example here. So pause the video and write that down so you can put that there. I just don't have enough room. But that's the process of doing these. So I'm going to do a couple, and then you're going to graph that. So let's look at the first one. So it says find the x and y intercept of each equation and graph it. So we're going to set up two cases. So x intercept on one side, then we're going to have the y intercept on the other side. So for the x-intercept, if we're looking for x, we plug in 0 for y. So 0 equals 5x minus 1. Now we're going to come back and add 1 to both sides so that we can isolate this 5x. So 1 equals 5x. And I'll finish it here. So 1 equal to 5x. Now we have to divide each side by 5 to get x by itself. So x equals 1 over 5. And the ordered pair would be 1/5 and 0. So that would be the first point that we graph. And now if we want the y-intercept, we are going to take y and keep it plugged in. And now for x, we're going to plug in 0. So then that will just cancel out because 5 times, or anything times 0 is 0. So y equals negative 1. So then our ordered pair would be 0, negative 1. we take these 2 points and graph them, and then we just connect those points, and that's our line. All right, so let's start off with the y-intercept. That's going to be -1, so that'll be like somewhere right around there. And then 0, 1/5 would be, or 1/5 0 would be somewhere in between 1 and 0 like that. And that's how our line would look. So you just draw a line through it, put arrows on it, and you're good to go. I'm going to do one more because this one's not super complicated, I'll be honest. The intercepts is pretty easy to do. So I'll do number 2 as well. So here we need to find our 2 cases. So x-intercept, y-intercept. So for the x-intercept, we're going to plug in 0 for y. That leaves us with x. Then we solve for it. So 0 equals -6/5 x plus 2. Now this is just solving equations. So we're going to take that 2 away on both sides. -2 equal to -6/5x. To get rid of a fraction like that, you just multiply it by its multiplicative inverse, which would just be flipping the fraction. So now those 2 will cancel out, give us 1. And we have to do that to both sides. So then that's going to give us -5/6 times -2 equal to x. So then that would be -10/6, which reduces down to, what is that? Actually, that wouldn't be negative. That would be positive. And then that would reduce down to 5/3. So that reduces down to 5/3. So that's what x is. So then one of our ordered pairs is going to be 5/3, 0. So that's our x-intercept. Now you need to pause this and write that down because I'm going to have to erase it to give myself some room. All right, so now let's look at the y-intercept. So when we're looking for y, we plug in 0 for x. So y stays -6, or then we got -6/5. Instead of x, we plug in 0 plus 2. That 0 cancels out that fraction, so y equals 2. So then 0, 2 is our y-intercept. So those are our 2 intercepts, and we just graph both of those points, and we're done. Then we draw a line through it. But so our y-intercept is 2, so that point will go there. Our x-intercept is 5/3, which 5/3 as a decimal is going to make this point, I think it's like 2 point something. So, or actually, let me check just to be sure. Where is my calculator? Oh, there it is. So 5 divided by 3. So as a decimal, it's 1.6. So that means as long as our point is in between 1 and 2, we should be good. Then we just draw a line through that. And that's what it would look like. So x and y intercepts, pretty easy stuff. Just remember, if you're looking for x, x must be in your equation that you solve for. So if you're looking for x, you got to plug in 0 for y. And then if you're looking for y, you got to plug in 0 for x.